In life, he often had to make a choice. First, it was a sport in which he wanted to get better. A little later, whilst a naval officer, he had to choose the country which he would serve. Then he had to choose between the army and sport. Watch what world kickboxing champion Pavlo Zhuravlov had to sacrifice to attain worldwide fame in the Cost of Victory program. Zodiac sign: Leo. Favorite color: blue. Eye color: brown. Favorite flower: probably chrysanthemum. Favorite animal: my dog. Favorite book: Adventures of Erast van Doren by Boris Akunin. Favorite movie: my favorite movie is a New Year movie about love around us. Motto: never give up. In the world of sport, this Ukrainian kickboxer is known for the terrible nickname of K-Man. He's presented by ringside announcers as Pavlo the K-Man Zhuravlov. This nickname helped him to achieve his most outstanding victories. Pavlo was against such nicknames, but under the terms of his contract, he had to come up with some image to be promoted on posters and on TV ahead of fights. Then I performed in the super heavyweight category. My opponents weighed 120 kg and guys 2 meters tall. I weighed just 82 kg. As a rule, all were either bears or mad bulls or alligators, which were very popular. But the alligator is a terrible crocodile, and I became a K-man because I was always small, but I was still a crocodile. This is a predator. The nickname K-Man suited the kickboxer most of all. It suited not only because of Pavlo's size, he was shorter and smaller than his opponents, but also his fighting style and character. There's a black K-Man. When it grows up, reaching optimal size, it has no rivals in nature, absolutely no one. The K-Man crocodile has something in common with me. Firstly, it never goes back. Secondly, if the K-Man gets its victim in the jaws, it will never let it go. It took Pavlo some time to come to kickboxing. In his hometown of Saki in Ukraine's Crimea, there wasn't a broad variety of sports sections. He started with football, then when Chinese action movies appeared with wushu and karate techniques became popular in video showrooms, young people of Crimea, including Pavlo Zhuravlov, began attending a karate group. Later on, his enthusiasm for martial arts turned into kickboxing. We just trained in the basement. We were people with a common interest, that is, we were involved in fighting. Just like in the movies, we beat heavy bags. We beat some paws, and over time we organized a team of about 20 people, and we began taking part in competitions. At first, older guys began to participate in kickboxing competitions, but then it was the turn of Pavlo Zhuravlov in the mid-1990s. After his first tournament, he caught himself thinking that this sport was not for him and that he had to quit it. My knees trembled so much that the referee, who was refereeing the fight between 12 to 13-year-old boys, saw this and asked me, "Are you okay?" I could show a good fight, but I was very nervous. I couldn't stand still. I was all right, but I was so nervous. Despite the fact that I was well prepared to fight technically and knew how to land all the various types of punches and combinations, I was disqualified because I landed my opponent 3 blows below the belt in a row. In fact, the sport that Pavlo the K-Man Zhuravlov is engaged in does not really meet his life rules. He's only a tough cookie inside the ring. In life, he can't say boo to a goose. I've never fought in my life. I still do not know how to hit a man in the face with my fist. I do not understand this. When I wear boxing gloves, it's different. Different rules in a different world. But in everyday life, it's very difficult for me to do it. It's my weakness and some people use it. Very few believe this when they watch my fights where I'm very aggressive. I've never hidden this because it is so. After being disqualified at his first tournament, Pavlo Zhuravlov continued to lose more fights. At one moment, he was so tired of losing that he promised himself that he would give up kickboxing if his next fight ended in defeat. It was probably the 10th competition when I just promised myself that I would give up this sport if I lost. Some higher forces probably realized that this mocking of me was sufficient. I could win those competitions. After this, I didn't lose at all for the next 5 years of my amateur career. Kickboxing became the meaning of his life. His parents considered it as their son's hobby, but Pavlo started to build a sporting future for himself. Everybody said to me that I should understand that it was not the most important thing in my life. But like any boy, I thought differently. Nobody forced me to train. I did it myself. I persuaded my parents. I met all their conditions for continuing my training. Because I also attended music and secondary schools at the same time, I was conditioned to study well in all areas and perform household chores. He regards the 5 years he spent learning to play the accordion, where his parents took him, to be the most useless time in his life. Pavlo loves music, but he dreamt of playing the violin and piano. After finishing school, Zhuravlov decided to devote his life to military education. He moved from Saki to Sevastopol, where he enrolled in the military institute. The first thing I heard when I met my chief officer was, "Who of you here is an athlete?" When I stood up, he said, "Your sport is over. Do you understand?" I answered as all military personnel did. Yes, sir." For almost the entire first year, Pavlo followed his commander's order to forget sport. When you join the military, be a good serviceman and obey orders. I was initially told that if you want to avoid problems, you should study well, and I did study well. I did certain tasks after lights out. This was permitted by law, by the rules. That is, we had a separate room for this, but you had to arrange your visit there with the duty officer, and it was recorded. But Pavlo Zhuravlov did not last long without his main hobby. At first, he maintained competitive form in some outbuildings, training early in the morning, while his fellow students were dreaming, or late at night after lights out. With such preparation, he came third at the 2003 World Thai Boxing Championship. After his triumph, the institute administrations understood that Pavlo was no ordinary athlete and began to allow him certain indulgences in his military service. The ban on training was lifted, but attending classes was mandatory. We had training 4 times a day. It was too much. The body should be restored. I was so charged emotionally that I could stand them. We did them, if you understand me. Athletes know what it's like to be tired, when you do not want to eat or drink. I was not able to drink. So when I returned home, I did not even go buy a car or minibus because I felt so bad that I couldn't sit. I walked on foot to get some air, and it was only when I was back home that I could eat or drink something. The life of the athlete and officer of the Ukrainian naval forces went its course until the Green Man appeared in Crimea in 2014. At that time, Pavlo Zhuravlov served at the Sevastopol Nakhimov Academy, so he faced that situation. The sport of kickboxing still left its mark, and when it's scary, I'm not at all afraid. On the contrary, I'm drawn to it. I try to overcome certain challenges. Honestly, I didn't feel fear. It was incomprehensible firstly and unpleasant secondly. Let's say that.
Было, во-первых, непонятно, а во-вторых, было, неприятно. Вот скажем так.
Nobody had complete information. We just guessed what was happening. But we didn't believe till the end what was happening. Pavlo and his family saw that lawlessness and aggression were around them. The decision to leave their native Crimea and move to mainland Ukraine was taken by the whole family. We listened to neither relatives nor friends. We were sure that we did the right thing, and we opposed the atmosphere that prevailed in Crimea at the time. It was very aggressive, one-sided. We understood that if people were ready to behave like this, then we were not ready to live next door to such people. While many Crimean families were falling apart, Pavlo and his wife Margarita, daughter Eva, and dog Cleopa moved to Odessa. Later on, the favorite dog of our guest, Cane Corso Mastiff Feya, appeared. Now they all live happily together.
Для меня, например, непонятны те ситуации, когда
I still cannot understand many families where wives, for some reason, decided to stay in Crimea. This situation is unacceptable for me. I think that no matter what views the wife has, but she has to support and follow her husband.
взгляды у женщины, да, то есть если это твой супруг, то ты поднимаешься и идешь за ним.
Pavlo met his wife Margarita in a sports gym. She was also involved in martial arts. She knows firsthand about Thai boxing and kickboxing. She tries to attend her husband's fights. She supports him either in the sports hall or in front of a computer screen. Sometimes when I'm not quite happy with the result in the morning because I don't understand what's happening, that is, there is no information. It's usual practice for Pavlo to knock out his opponents. After watching Pavlo's fight, I immediately give him my view, which in my opinion is very important to him.
То я сразу уже вижу и могу, причем, какое-то свое резюме, свое видение точно так же ему сказать. Иногда, мне кажется, для него тоже это важно.
The match analysis by his spouse is very important for Pavlo. Even when he wins and feels euphoria from the result, he accepts criticism with understanding. My friends usually avoid criticizing me. They encourage me, say that I did everything well. But I understand that it's not true. As for my wife, she always assesses me objectively. She points out my mistakes. She knows what I want. A year after moving to Odessa, Lieutenant Commander Pavlo left his service in the Navy and focused on his sports career. He became the FFC World Kickboxing Champion in 2016. Incredible efficiency and sense of purpose helped him to earn titles and victories. What really set me apart from the others was that I always trained a little more than the others. And one more thing, I've never missed a workout, never. It's what actually remains with me now, in my adult life. I know that if I give myself a weakness today, I will miss training next week, then in 2 weeks' time, and so on. And this will get me nowhere. So even when I don't need to train, I still go to training session. This is an iron rule for me. The man with iron rules in life is extremely gentle and kind at home, says his wife Margarita. Pavlo's image in the ring is far from that in the everyday life. He's very good and kind. Despite the fact that my husband is an athlete, he never deals with problems using force, because he knows how to talk. In the event of any conflict, the first person to start fighting will be me, and not Pavlo.
Какой-то конфликт где-то, то тот человек, который полезет в драку, это скорее буду я, чем Паша.
At home, Pavlo, as he says himself, loves to cook. This sounds like some sort of joke. The sportsman's wife appreciated his joke. He can cook eggs, pasta, chicken breasts, that's about it, probably.
Курицу сварить может, грудки куриные. Наверное, на этом все заканчивается.
I really like cooking, but I don't actually cook. Today, Pavlo, the K-man Zhuravlov, combines fighting in the ring with coaching activities. With like-minded people, he plans to train not only young athletes, but to also involve their parents. They're trying to move with the times, so they want to introduce the idea of online training in social networks.
Любое занятие спортом, любое, кикбоксингом, хоккей.
Any kind of sport, whether kickboxing, hockey, swimming, gives children the feeling of being part of a team and gets them off the streets. It gives them a proper understanding of life too. A person then understands that life is not just about phones and cartoons, that there is competition, sport. When he begins to get into sports, he understands that this is good for him. Sport is the foundation on which we should invest in our children, and we should give them this foundation.
Это основы, которые мы вкладываем в своих детей, и мы должны им давать их.
The career of Pavlo Zhuravlov, the most successful Ukrainian kickboxer, is a vivid example of how you should move towards the goal you've set yourself. And in the face of adversity, choice, you should always believe in your own strengths. Not everyone can achieve success, but without faith in oneself, it will be impossible to reach new heights.